Hey there. Welcome to the Pine Island Experience podcast. I'm Joanna Anderson with my husband, Trygve. Each of our episodes will be conversations with fellow Pine Islanders.
The goal of our podcast is to share with you our experiences, what we have found to be fun, and what makes the Pine Island experience so unique.
Got everything from sinkers to hooks to leader material to every kind of soft plastic, hard baits,
souvenirs, kids stuff, shirts, it's everything. A little kids section. So, I mean, you do come in with your kids and you realize how much there is to look at. Then they can go back and, look around and do stuff too. So you don't have to worry about it.
We had so many ladies after Ian. That was the only place to shop on this end of the island. So they'd come in and shop just in the gift shop area. And it was so funny. And you knew they were usual suspects. You'd see them once a week just to get out of the house.
Jimmy and Jennifer Harrison, owners of Pine Island Bait and Tackle, were explaining that they want their customers to come into the shop and find everything they need for fishing. When you walk in the door, you'll be blown away by all of the merchandise. No wonder their shop is called the biggest little tackle shop in Southwest Florida. And now, here are Jimmy and Jennifer. Welcome, Jimmy and Jennifer Harrison from Pine Island Bait and Tackle Shop. We're so happy you're here. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
We start in the beginning every time. We want to hear all about you from when you were born. Anything you want to divulge, how you got together, before we move on to what you're doing now. So who wants to start?
Well, I can. Okay, I'll start. I can say that we met in Virginia Beach. We got married there and spent most of our time there and started looking at a retirement plan after he retired from the Navy and I retired as a nurse. We found this amazing island down here and thought, well, nothing gets better than paradise. So here we are. Jimmy's always fished, retired, and did some charter fishing over the summer. Tarpon capital of the world sounded pretty good. So we came and visited friends down here. They bought a house. We bought the house next door.
Sweet.
So that's kind of our story of how we got down here. Then Ian happened and we lost our house and we're still rebuilding. And in the meantime, we were kind of, what do we do? And the opportunity for the bait shop came up. And he caught me at a wink moment and I said, okay. And,
Very weak.
And here we are. It'll be 2 years in June.
We've always liked that shop, no matter where it was. I like the fact that we have the best clientele in the world because people fish. Most people that fish are good people. I mean, that's just a good, gauge. Like they'll saying, when you go fishing, you take more with you than you bring back. Because, it's therapy. But we also don't want to have to leave the island. Once we're here, we went to Nashville in January for a week. It's the longest I've been off the island since Ian. I just don't like leaving. I love it down here. And we've tried to give a product that everyone can utilize. And we always say, unless you're Hunter, who's our manager, none of us were born here, but we're transplanted at some point. If we can make that transition to fish down here, from your walleye fishing in Minnesota or Michigan or Wisconsin, or muskie fishing to tarpon fishing, it's fishing's fishing, and everyone can get along and have conversation no matter where you're from. And we enjoy it down here and we don't want it to change. That's one of the reasons we bought the place. You get spoiled though, because, we joke about with the traffic, the bridge and all that, but at the end of the day, it's first world problems. We live in the best place in the world. We really do. Hurricanes or not, it's an amazing place with amazing people.
It sounds like you found the bait shop right away when you were here just before Ian. So you timed that fabulously. And then you bought the bait shop.
Yeah, I moved down full time in 2021 and Jimmy finished up his charter season and moved down September of 2022 full time and just in time for Ian.
It's funny. Tim and Trina were the previous owners of the tackle shop. And for years, Tim's like, you need to buy the tackle shop, Jimmy. I'm like, oh, yeah, I need a tackle shop in South Florida. This is, the joke. And after Ian, he needed someone one day a week, and I wasn't doing anything. I mean, there was no charters or anything. And I'm like, well, give me something to do because I don't sit well. I mean, I have to have something to do. And started in December of 22, and then we bought the place in June of 23. Of course, we had Bob. Everyone conveyed with us, which is nice. We have great guys that work in there though. Sandy, Hunter, Mike, Bob, Sean. They have the same goals we do. We just want you to be happy and catch some fish.
And they all love to fish. And so when he brought up the whole idea of buying the bait shop, I thought, okay, he can go there and talk about fishing for 8 hours a day.
No problem.
It would be perfect. And then I don't have to talk about it. But he still comes home and talks about fishing, even with our neighbor, Phil. We always laugh. We said, oh, I wonder what they're talking about. They're out there talking about fishing. So it's such a passion. And it's such a passion here on the island with the whole community and the people and even our snowbirds that come down. It's the reason they're here.
We have a different group of snowbirds, though, than most of Florida because most of our snowbirds come down, and I use that tongue-in-cheek, snowbirds. But when they get here, they're part of the community. They volunteer at the various places from the VFW to the American Legion to the Moose. They're all part of the community. Whereas, you go to Sarasota and Bradenton and all that, they're not. They're just maintaining space and wasting oxygen there. And It's awesome. And it's a different feel because, you go anywhere else in Florida, like, the snowbirds. I mean, it's not that feel here on the island. And we know when they're coming. Like, we have one guy, we know he's going to be there at the end of December. We've got guys, the first week of January and February. And you have your different waves of your Indiana guys, your Wisconsin guys, your Minnesota. But you can tell. And you can also watch the weather report. When it starts getting crappy about Traverse City up in there, it starts pushing the people down.
Good.
Absolutely.
And they can keep the snow up there and the cold weather.
Yep.
Exactly.
So actually discovering Pine Island, that was through a friend or a family or just a luck on a vacation?
So Sean and Ann, really great friends of ours, they've found Pine Island and they bought a place down here. That's who we live beside. And we joked that they found a really nice, quiet place on a canal. And then they invited us down and ruined that because we bought the house beside them. Friends of ours bought the house on the other side, and another friend bought one on the other side. So
it wasn't quiet anymore? Is that what you...
Never was to begin with, but it's like I said, it's a great place. And what's hard is when you're not full-time, is you come down and you stay a little bit longer each time. And it's a little bit harder to leave each time. And it's like a weight's lifted when you're like, I don't have to go back to anywhere, which is pretty cool.
Now, so you acquired the business. Did you just kind of continue to run it as is, or did you start to make changes? Kind of what was your approach on, you had kind of a somewhat established business, I assume, and some business people say, well, I'm going to do status quo and get a feel, or some people say, it's mine now and I'd like to, this is my vision for the store. So kind of which direction did you go, or was it maybe even a blend?
I'm going to let you take part of that, love.
We didn't want to change the feel of the bait shop. It was the biggest little tackle shop, or still is the biggest little tackle shop in Southwest Florida. And we wanted to keep that island feel, the cute little cottage look outside, the gift shop. But when you walk in, people are always impressed about how much stuff. And that's what he says. If we had 300 more feet, we would have 300 more feet of stuff in there. So we didn't want to change the feel, but just kind of start to add in some new things. People always give suggestions in the community of clothing or different options. Hunter, like we said, who works for us, he's one of the young ones. So it's all about the new things that come out. So we're trying all of the new jigs, rods, reels, look at this new thing, stuff, YouTube, TikTok, all of that no longer into or even know about. He knows about all that and does all of that. So we try and keep it from new beginners to walk in to seasoned pros looking for the latest and greatest. So it's a wide array. We'll take time with moms, single moms that come in that are down here with their sons and want to go fishing. They spend time with them, rig up their lines, show them what hooks to use, bait. And I give them credit for walking into, I say in quotes, loosely, a man's world altogether, but they do leave excited and come back the next day and talk about what they've caught and have opened up this whole new door. What also impresses me is the women that fish down here, amazing anglers. And so we try to switch to that a little bit also too. It's not just a boys club. It's come in, talk, hang out, and they feel comfortable to do that. So that's kind of the atmosphere that we want to keep going, created, and hope to continue and grow. And as we're there longer, get more and more involved with the communities as far as fishing with the kids, and Pine Island Elementary does stuff and their veterans and things like that. That's the direction we would like to take it.
We're also fortunate. We're one of the few tackle shops that Jen was talking about. Single mom last year had a lady came down with her son that never fished, and we can walk out back. Canal's right behind the shop. I had them casting behind the shop in the canal, rigged their lines for them, showed them, and I think it gives them a little bit more of ownership when before they leave, they're like, okay, I can do this. Whereas, it's the apprehension that you get, you're like, and especially and that's one of the biggest things with our shop is I've been in hundreds of tackle shops. I'm sure you have also. Most of the time it's like, why are you bothering me type feel.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's the last thing we want somebody that's not from here to come in the shop and feel. Because you heard me say that earlier, unless you were Hunter who was born here, we all transplanted at some point. And we make it transition easier, we do. Well, most of the time we have great success with it.
It's also a fascinating hobby in that if you talk to 10 fishermen about the best rod, you get 30 answers, right? And some guy likes this lure, but it can't be that color, and it's got to be this, or it's got to be. Maybe it's good to have all that. You're talking about the feel and the island feel, but it might be good because there's 20 different answers. None of them are wrong to the right jig or lure or whatever.
We joke about it all the time. Everyone that's in the shop has their go-tos. There's a couple of colors I don't leave the dock without. And one of them's white, paddle-tail, and the other one's a new penny. It could be pearl or slam shade or something like that. We've got these new things called Ned shrimps that have just blown up. They've been big on the internet, Instagram and all that. And we joke that Hunter's the local drug dealer now because everyone's there like, when's it coming in? One of our guys from Maine, he came in the shop.
Slipping him cash under the table.
He looked like Kramer coming into the shop because, he was looked like he was strung out. And he's like, when's the shrimp coming in? It's funny, but what's really cool is when you introduce someone to something, they come back and they're like, that really worked, which is, that's all you're looking for. And I don't care if it's the dad that's been on the pontoon boat for the week, that's all he's doing is riding up and down the canals, that he's like, what can I drag behind me? Troll. Mm-hmm. You give him something, he comes in and shows you a 36-inch snook that he picked up. I love that. It's the best feeling in the world. Because
before they leave, then they go, oh, is it because we're vacationers and we don't know what's going on? Is that what? And they come the next day, they're like, no, it worked. Yeah.
Well, excellent.
I actually had a guy, he goes, I thought you were just selling me something that wouldn't sell off the shelf. I'm like, no. I said, we're anglers before anything else. We'd love to catch fish.
But that in a very weird way, it cements what you guys are trying to do, and it's indicative of their experiences elsewhere, that the product being recommended is certainly for the pure sale or the revenue and not for the satisfaction of the customer.
Well, we always joke, I don't want to sell. I'd much rather have a customer. Because one, you have a good day, you're going to come in, we're going to talk about it. We get to hear how good your day is. And if you get a customer, the customer's going to come back. And someone says, hey, I need a new rod, they're going to say, hey, go to these guys. They'll take care of you. They'll legitimately take care of you. And they know what they're talking about, which is a huge thing. Because our biggest thing is we don't want you leaving out of there with something you don't want. That's what it comes down to. And you remember that when you do. And Nobody wants buyer's remorse. I don't care if it's a $20 rod or a $600 rod.
Mhm.
You want to be happy with it.
And that it shows up in your reviews too. They're these guys are so helpful. They told me what to do and it worked.
We have guys call the shop. We're like, where did you tell us to go?
Well, and that's
Right.
what Jimmy always says before they leave. He's like, take the card when you get out there and you forget everything I just told you. Just give us a call and we'll remind you, because it's so much information, and all of the islands look the same to me out there now since the storms. And
Yeah, it's got to be overwhelming.
Mhm.
And they just want to be in the right spot.
Exactly. That was one of the worst things is going out after Ian, just the landscape, because everything looked the same, absolute same.
sad to see the devastation still. And then we deal with the red tide next, and we wonder how bad that's going to be and affect things. And who knew it would be so many different entities involved in a tackle shop?
Yeah, there's a lot of variables. We were talking about that. We went offshore a week and a half ago, and it affects all of us. We're fishing with some guys off North Cap that have businesses over there, and we all eat off the same plate, for lack of better terms. We do. And when people can't fish, it affects everything. It affects the restaurants, it affects tackle shops, it affects like Two Fish Inn, places like that. Because if people don't fish, they don't come down here. And you can tell when the weather got a lot better at the end of January, the 1st of February, it was like, wham. And I was like,
Mhm.
I can breathe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just stressful, but
Well, it is jam-packed full of inventory. I remember the first time I went in there, I went, whoa, there's so much to look at. It just blows you away. Everything that you carry.
That's the
It's fun too.
best reaction we have. It is. Normal tackle shops have some stuff here and there and whatever is basics you need. And like we said, we try and carry everything from high end to
we can sell you anything from a $30 combo to a $1,500 combo. And that's just the inshore side. Once you get on the offshore side, it goes up. I mean, it's an expensive hobby. And truly is. But, when you start out as a kid, you just were scavenging, and you get to the point where you can afford some better stuff. You're like, I want the good stuff. And it feels better. My wife has good gear, really good gear. And I had a rod. It's a really nice rod, but I still had an old reel because that's how I am. And she stays on top of me. She's like, you need to get your new reel. Well, the other day, she cast my rod. She goes, this is really nice. And then she went to crank it. And then she's like, what is this? And I'm like, it's an old reel.
And I never realized because no, I don't need anything. No, I don't. This is fine until you get something a little nicer. And then you're like, oh, I understand now. Mm-hmm. And how it sucks you in. But going back to talking about customers, it's amazing how they've become family too. And when you don't see them for a week or two, you wonder where they are, or they come in and learn about what they've done all winter and what they're doing and what they're up to and new things. And
Jim's kid was in state wrestling.
mm-hmm.
I mean, made it to state. Actually, one state. He's Wisconsin Jim is what I call him. But great guy. But you do. I mean, they become part of your lives, And it's funny when they call you, like, hey, can you come give me a hand? Or somebody will be like, hey, do you have a pair of pliers I can get the oil filter off my engine? Absolutely. Because I have a special set of, it's an oil filter wrench, but it's adjustable. And it's community.
Mm-hmm.
And we want you to be able to come in there, and we've got everything from sinkers to hooks to leader material, to every kind of soft plastic, hard baits.
Souvenirs, kids stuff,
Yeah,
shirts,
it's
everything. A little kids section. So, I mean, you do come in with your kids and you realize how much there is to look at. Then they can go back and, look around and do stuff too. So you don't have to worry about it.
We had so many ladies after Ian. That was the only place to shop on this end of the island. So they'd come in and shop just in the gift shop area. And it was so funny. And you knew there were usual suspects. You'd see them once a week just to get out of the house, but not have to leave the island.
Mm-hmm.
And we always joke, I'm a girl dad. We have 2 daughters. And I always say it when we have women in the tackle shop. I said, you guys win. I said, you get cut in front of everyone. I said, there's still a little bit of chivalry left. And one lady goes, well, what if somebody has a problem? I said, well, they don't have to come back. But it's a great little shop. I mean,
You have live bait too.
absolutely. That's always fun. That's the worst part about owning a tackle shop is keeping up with the shrimp. Because the days they can't run, the days they don't run, and no one understands that. All they know is they came down with their family, they want shrimp, and they can't get live shrimp. You try to kill them with kindness, and we call around. I mean, we communicate with other shops too. Like this morning, there was no shrimp on the island after 9:00 from D&D, Bobbers, Monroe Canal Marina. I mean, and I went down to Monroe Canal later, and I asked Stacy, I said, you got any shrimp? She goes, get out.
Get out of here.
But it's all in good fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have things other than live shrimp, or is in terms of live bait?
We sometimes have pinfish, crabs for tarpon season.
Mm-hmm.
We have a wide array of frozen baits, from frozen mullet, frozen shrimp, thread fins, frozen squid, different types of chum. And some things, if we don't have it, we can special order it. We have a lot of customers that they'll order in bulk. If you order on Tuesday, I can have it by Thursday. That's when my truck runs. And these guys that run every day, they have their big freezers at home, so they just come and I call them when it arrives. I'm like, come get this because I don't have the room for it.
Which goes for captains to just normal customers.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. We have a board with all of cards from local captains, charter captains down here that we recommend, throw out, help with anybody too.
And we have awesome guides here on
Mm-hmm.
the island. You know that. We have guides that will take you out on your boat, show you how things work, show you how to operate your boat. Sandy's really good at that. She takes a lot of people out just to show them how to use their electronics. Because, it's a lot different than being on a lake in Indiana or somewhere like that. I mean, you got to worry about the tides, winds, water's wind driven here. I mean, there's a lot of variables, and you can get in trouble, really
depth.
quick.
And depth. I think people are very spoiled in other parts of the country. The Gulf, what is it, like a foot per mile or some average and you can be in perfectly good water and you look down, you go, holy.
So that's one of the most asked questions when people like where, and I don't want to run aground, and they don't want to exactly tell you about it. And Jimmy has something he says to him every time.
It's one of my favorite stories. Years ago, we were sitting at Cabbage Key, and there was a guy selling a 3-mast sailboat up there. He was sitting at the bar, and someone goes, you got to have a lot of skill to do that. He goes, oh, no, there's one important thing you must remember. So you remember back in the 80s, E.F. Hutton, the commercials where when E.F. Hutton speaks, so we all... And he goes, if you see birds walking on it, don't go that way.
That's too funny.
You laugh, but it's actually, it's a good thing. And I've had people come back in, they're like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, and Mike always says, know your birds. Because obviously,
Some
a
birds
heron
are
and
taller.
a seagull is going to change things.
If they're not used to it too, it's such a different philosophy because I think we're so oriented as like, I go down this street, I make a left, I make a right, and where I want to go. And you're like shortest possible distance to the goal. You're out on the water, and I think it's just exacerbated here is you might be going 3-4 miles out of the way because you have to go around something because there's shoaling and oysters and all that kind of stuff. So like it is so very, unless you know the waters and you're out there all the time, it's very, very deceiving. So that's got to be, somebody told me one time, if your paint has skeg, you're not doing it right.
Like Jimmy says, there's 2 types of people, those who run aground and those who lie about it.
You don't hear it's the truth.
It's happened to everybody. Mm-hmm. And now it's not such a big deal. You're like, oh, the water will come in. This is a great fishing spot. We'll be.
One of our good customers, he bought a 24 Sportsman a couple of years ago, and he took it in for the 20-hour service. And at 20 hours, it did not have any paint on the skeg. And the guy goes, you got a little skinny there. He goes, I bought it to fish in. He goes, I didn't buy it to look at it. Like, all right.
Well, you can kid about it, right?
Right.
You have
People
to.
are, yeah.
And we tell people, if you're unfamiliar with it and you're trying to go to new places, just do it on a low tide.
Mm-hmm.
That way you always have that get out of jail free card, because, if you do run aground, the tide will bring you up.
That's good advice.
Well, and it does tend to expose things a little bit better for you. You can get I know when we were first doing it, all of a sudden I'm like, well, we went this way. But wait a minute, that was at high tide. I don't know what this does now that we've been out for hours and now we're on the swing and it's on the way down, if not down.
Absolutely. You always have to keep an eye on the tides, because you will get your feelings hurt quick.
So beyond the gifts and the tackle, do you provide other services through the store? I mean, you mentioned cards for charter captains. You recommend other kinds of services related to fishing that you have?
We have wet slips in the back that we rent out also. And you can come by boat to get bait, tackle.
Rod repair, right?
We do rod repair. We do not do reel repair. We just don't have the facility for it. We don't have the real estate for it. But we always recommend Lear's and North Fort Myers. They do a really good job. Lear's Economy Tackle, been around forever. And a really nice group of guys. They actually fixed some of my reels after Ian. It's a lot there. It's just, and a lot of people, they'll call us for, hey, if you got a guy for concrete, you got a dock guy. And, you're apprehensive, but there's some names you're like, yep, call this guy. He's your guy. And it makes you feel good that they trust you enough to ask.
That's a good service for them.
Absolutely. And it saves them a lot of time. And we're blessed. I mean, like I said, we have the best clientele there is. I mean, when you're working on something and someone pulls up to get a fishing rod or something, they're like, hey, do you need a hand? Or, you don't get that everywhere.
You have ice too. I think I've seen that there.
We do have ice.
So this is where Jennifer plugs her ears. Jimmy, any plans for expansions or other things you want to do with the business?
Actually, everyone wants me to put a tiki bar out back. And I'm like, it's just like everyone wants a coffee bar. And I'm like, I said, I can't get rid of these guys as it is. I said, I put a coffee pot in here. I said, you wouldn't be able to walk in here. But, which still, people go across the street, they'll get coffee at Blondie's and come in and hang out. And, a lot of times the misunderstanding, people will come in and we'll be busy and they'll be like, well, there's somebody sitting behind the counter or there's somebody sitting here. And half the time they don't work there. They'll help you, but they don't work there.
They're customers sitting there?
Absolutely.
They're usually getting their line. They're real spooled, so we also do that.
And, we have some of the captains that come in, which that's another cool thing about our captains is they communicate very well. And, they're like, I'm not telling you this or that. They actually give them good information. And, which that makes me feel good because they appreciate it. If that makes sense. The customers do.
So let's just remind everybody about where you're located, how best to get a hold of you, hours for the store, those kinds of things.
We're at 3339 Stringfellow Road, St. James City, Florida. I'm sorry I'm laughing because we'll be fishing and we lose a jig. And everybody on the boat's like, you can get another one of those at 3339 Stringfellow Road. It's just became a joke.
It's a joke.
And then you can reach us by water down Monroe Canal. We're getting ready to put a sign out on the dock letting you know exactly where we are and where you can pull your boat in. And that's what we always say. Come in the morning, get your ice, get your shrimp, go across the street, get a cup of coffee, come back, get whatever else you need, and be on your way.
We do bulk ice also. We sell 10-pound bags instead of the 7s, which is one of my gripes about being older. I understand my dad a lot more now. We sell 10-pound bags of ice for $3, and we also sell 5-gallon buckets of ice, which holds 2 bags for $4. You just bring your own bucket and scoop it. Which if you're going offshore, you're going to spend the day on the boat. You're going to want a bunch of ice anyway, because no one likes running out of ice.
No, especially not down here.
I was about to say, especially in Florida.
Phone numbers, email, any social media presence?
We have Instagram. We have a Facebook. We're working on our website, which should be up and running hopefully by the end of the month. Eventually, we would like to do some t-shirt sales on the website also. That's to come. Lots of things we'd like to do. We'd like to do fishing tournament, do things like that. And we're always in the mix with Chuck and helping out with his fishing seminars that he does.
We got a new information station we just put on the side of the building that actually Chuck built for us, which is kind of cool. It's a cork board where we can put, if people are selling a boat or this or that on there, something fishing related.
Mhm.
And it cleans up my door in the shop too.
It's a little bit of an information center. Do
It,
you have the phone number up?
It's 239-558-4524 is our phone number. That's our point of contact. Yeah, we're open Saturday through Thursday, 7 to 4. And on Fridays, we're open till 5. Only days we're actually closed are Thanksgiving and Christmas.
And if there's a hurricane, but sometimes we're open during then too.
Yeah.
Or we have that captain that calls you at 7 o'clock at night coming back in that broke a rod. He's like,
Please.
can you take care of me? I'm like,
Yep.
yes, which has
Mhm.
happened more than once. But, being a captain, I get it. And
That desperation. Yes.
Of course, you understand.
absolutely.
Just
Thank you guys for
appreciate
having
this
us.
Oh,
opportunity.
thank you. This was wonderful. So enjoyable. Glad we finally met you.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you enjoyed our Pine Island Experience podcast. If you have any ideas for us, people to interview, or any comments, please feel free to email them to us at pineislandexperience@gmail.com. That's pineislandexperience, all one word, @gmail.com. Don't forget to like us, and you may subscribe to this podcast using all the major catchers like Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Thanks again for listening, and remember, island life is a constant vacation. We'll see you on the next podcast.